addressing the virus. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Addressing the virus, its evolution through time, the tools that are used as a means to the end. And at the moment for us, in most parts of the country, we're done with the second wave, but we're staring at the possibility of a third one. And we're wondering if it's going to be as bad as the second one. And if the vaccines, that many of us have already had, are going to come to our rescue, or will there be immune escape variants which will beat the vaccine efficacy, et cetera, et cetera. And to answer this and much more, and basically the entire journey towards this end, we have with us today Dr. Pragya Yadav, who's Scientist E and Head of Biosafety Level 4 Laboratory in the National Institute of Virology, which is basically Asia's first state-of-the-art facility to handle high-risk pathogens, right? And she's been working in this field of public health since the last 2 decades. Her expertise is in viral diseases, investigation and diagnosis of unknown high-risk viruses. And she was essentially seminal in the first isolation of the strain in the country and the identification of the strain, which was kind of a breakthrough in many ways, especially for developing the indigenous IgG antibody ELISA COVID Kavach test, and also to develop the inactivated whole virion vaccine by Covaxin from Bharat Biotech. She was also instrumental in the safety and efficacy studies of this indigenous vaccine. And previously, her expertise has helped us in identifying viruses like the Nipah outbreak of Kozhikode, Kerala, right? And she's also been awarded the ICMR, Research Award, the Major Shoki Singh Award, and the Dr. Ramachandran Rao Award, and felicitation from the Governor of Maharashtra as a COVID warrior. We welcome you, Dr. Pragya, and we'd be fascinated to hear your insights on your research from the pandemic and to address the SARS virus. Over to you. Dr. Pragya, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Divya, for a very nice introduction. And I am really thankful to Premas Biotech for inviting me and all the participants who are here today to listen our journey, which we have gone through from January 2022 till now, how we have, what kind of crisis we faced during this pandemic. Though we are a virology institute and apex laboratory of the country, and you can see these 3 buildings. The first one is the NIV's old building at Ambedkar Road in Pune. The center one is the new structure in MCC. And then the right one is the BSL-4 facility, which is Asia's first BSL-4 facility. And that helped in working on different deadly diseases in past few years. And I just name few of them. So we all know that there are certain viral high-risk group of pathogens which is already present in pre-pandemic era in our country, and that is one, the KFD virus, which was the mainly lot of work done in 57 to 2021, and for 30 years in 17 all the work was stopped in NIV because of the many infections to the laboratory people and a field worker. And after establishing the first BSL-3 laboratory in India, we could restart the KFD work. And we went ahead, and in 2011, we investigated first CCHF outbreak. And then we are working now almost 10 years on CCHF. A large number of the studies has been done, and we are self-sufficiently develop our own ELISA, all the tests and everything is there. So we can diagnose this disease in our country without anybody else help. In 2015, when Ebola came to our country, then it was risk, and a number of laboratories were trained to deal with sample handling, transportation, and testing. Further, in 2017, when Zika was detected first time in our country, further 56 laboratories were trained from ICMR using, they were shared with the reagents, and now recently we have detected in Kerala the Zika virus. So we have increased our laboratory capacity in country, biosafety preparedness and risk assessment. So that help in handling different viral pathogens. And then in Nipah, we all know that it was first discovered in our country in 2001. Then in Nadia district in 2007, there was 100% mortality of 5 cases. In 2018, the Kerala has again suffered with the Nipah outbreak. And that was the one high-risk group of pathogen in country, which actually gained attention of every public health expertise, laboratory people, and so on. In 2019, further Nipah cases were there, and that actually alerted us for preparing ourselves for a situation when we will have to deal with a large-scale viral infection and work on it. In 2000, we have already seen the picture of earlier pandemic during the influenza pandemic 10 years back. And that time also we did a lot of work, NIV and many VRDOs and rest of the institutions. But this pandemic, which we saw this time, it was beyond our imagination, and still we are going through this suffering. And as we all know that I don't have to give much introduction about COVID and SARS-CoV-2 virus, that it was first identified in Wuhan, China in 2019, December last week. And then in March, WHO declared it is a public health emergency of international concern. And today's we can see the data that more than 193 millions are affected and 4.15 million have succumbed to disease. And further, not only the virus, but then further the variant of concern, variant under investigations created more problems for whatever efforts was made for vaccine, for monoclonals, therapeutics, and so on. So it actually, this whole 1.5 years, if we look at from January to so now, it has become a challenge, not for the science, for public health, for management, for administrator. And it was a big deal of issue for the country like India, which is a developing country, and we lack a lot of resources, we lack a lot of basic things which are required for the research and for the treatment. During the January, when this, the virus was not much known, and then you start thinking what we are going to do as a virology institute. So we understand that it was a novel viral pathogen, and there was no information was available. There was a fear and panic. There were community resistance and stigma for staff even working in pandemic. And we have seen the national and international lockdown, which created further problem in supply, transportation, and all these issues. Moreover, when we, the last year, if you remember, in the past, whenever there was any outbreak, we can at least order things from outside and it can reach to us very easily. But during the lockdowns, there was an issue for availability of primers, probe, diagnostic reagents, even personal protective equipment, sequencing machines, plastic vests, and many other things which required for research and R&D. Then there was no serological assays were available, positive controls were not there. Then the people who are working in the laboratory are in the hospital setting, they had a high risk of infection. Then in our country, we do not have certified animal facilities where you can have pathogen-free animals in a very quick time and you can do your research. Then in the second wave in 2021, after the vaccination started, then we are started during this second wave, we are started seeing that there was a huge number of breakthrough infection. And then after doing all this work, losing family members, people were sick in the families, the mental and the well-being of the staff is a big concern. Then breakdown and maintenance of the machine and facility during all these crises. And this was a very, very tiring journey without much awards, rewards, or appreciation, because everybody is bogged up with this whole scenario. And then you are also lacking the enough staff who can do the similar kind of work in a containment facility or even outside. Because even though if you hire in crisis the staff, they are not trained to do your job, and that is again a problem. But in spite of all these crises, in spite of all these struggles, as an NIV, as a big team of many scientists and technical team, we try to do a lot of things, and because of a lot of efforts of everyone, we could achieve at least a substantial amount of the work to serve the country, and that include the first development of diagnostics, training the VRDL labs, then distribution of reagents to laboratories, validation of different reagents and kits, developing our own indigenous ELISA, IFA, PRNT, MNT, developing animal model for studying the COVID, then screening of antiviral protocols and compounds, development of monoclonals and polyclonal antibody, and the most important thing which we realized within few months at the beginning, that we need a vaccine which should be quickly should be made in our country so that we have enough doses available for India. Then preparing the antigen bulk for different kind of projects which was required during the pandemic. Then we also study with Zydus and Serum Institute for preclinical studies of different products. In the beginning, and I was the only institute which was doing diagnostic in January month, but after that, the training was started, reagents were shared, and then we could test a huge number of samples in 1.5 years, and we could see then that we could test at least 20 crores samples till 7th May, and it reached to 30 crores and so on. So we have sufficient number of laboratories around across the country, which you can see marked with this red marking, which is diagnosing samples day by day, and we are at least not having crisis of such. Then on the pattern of the self-reliance Atmanirbhar Bharat, we could test a huge number of reagents, and that's why it make available, and the cost of testing become less, because we have so much availability of different brands, different companies, and we could the test which was costing last year more than 5,000, now it is reduced to a very cost effective amount. During the first lockdown, which was between March to May, there was an issue for the supplying these reagents which needed for each laboratory to test the COVID samples. The mission lifeline UDAN was started from government, and many partners worked together, and these reagents could supply, and ICMR played a very important role in being depot and also for the supplying. Then we work on a very easy platform is called TrueNet platform, which can be used in field, which can be used in a field laboratory, in a district laboratory. And in the past, it has been used for tuberculosis. We used during the Nipah virus in 2019, and it became very handy tool for increasing our testing system. And you can see in this map that how many state adopted this test, and our numbers increased drastically for testing in our country. The next challenge as a virology institute was to isolate the virus, and we all know that the first case was identified in January, and afterward in the same week then 2 more cases were identified, and it was immediately sequenced using a very small machine which we have is called MiniSeq from Illumina. And in beginning, we use a very known protocol of TrueSeq, and we could see that this virus was coming from Wuhan, 99.98%. Similar, we tried to do virus isolation, but we could not get the virus because the sample was coming at 4 degrees, and it was put at 4 degrees for a long time. So the isolation was not possible for first 3 cases, but we kept trying with different cells, and we passed 5 times, but it didn't happen. And in the beginning, we have to remember that even this information was not known that which cell line will work best for isolation of this novel pathogen. So it was just a lot of trials with different samples, and we in the March, when the second batch of the positive cases were reported from Jaipur and Delhi and Rajasthan, we got the sample directly in dry ice, and we started working on it. And within 10 days, we had a virus isolate confirmed, and we could get 9 isolates in the beginning, and which the number grow with the time and the isolates increase. The first isolates which we got in March month actually enhanced our aptitude to the work, because now we can do a lot of things which was not possible without virus, to understand about this disease and therapeutics and many more things which can be done. And that include the vaccine, then diagnostic reagents, raising the hyperimmune sera, antiviral screening, and antibodies productions, and many more other which can we do. quickly this virus was seen in electron microscopy in NIV, and then we developed IFA and we screened screen the virus, and we did in NGS, and it was confirmed the virus is there, and we could see that it belongs to G-clade, and it was characterized very well further. This is the team which has continuously worked from last year to now for virus isolation, and they have done continuous effort. Further, this virus was characterized doing this transcriptome, process disease, growth kinetics, and this NGS tool again become very handy, and we could characterize this virus. And all the data of these study has been published and is available in the public data. The next challenge was to help the Indian people who are stuck up in Iran because of the pandemic, and then NIV team went there, they collected their sample. Those samples were transported, and our influenza team, and they worked overnight, they tested them, and these negative people could travel to India. And we could also sequence these samples very quickly. We could isolate even virus from Iran patient, which were the positive, and it was again available in our public domain, which can be looked at. Further, we also screened the Italy samples, which came from abroad, where our Indian people were there, and it was screened, then sequenced, and further isolations were made from these samples. At the same time, there was thought came in India, we have a huge number of Pteropus and Raucetus bats, and we are continuously doing the survey for Nipah virus. And in 2018-19, and even prior to that, we have identified the hotspot for Nipah virus. But in the past, when we did sequencing, it was doing a genome walking using different primers. But as soon as this genome NGS facility became available in 2017, we could do a complete genome very quickly. We designed our multiplex for different diseases. For Nipah also, we have multiplex. And then we could sequence very quickly. So the thought came, actually, it was advised by Dr. Raman Ganga Ketkar sir. He called me one day and, Pragya, can you not screen your sample which you are doing Nipah survey and see if we have any SARS-CoV-2 virus in our bat species. So we took samples from 10 states of these bats, including rectal swab and throat swab, and we screened them, and we found that these bats were having beta coronavirus lineage D, which is a coronavirus, but it is not SARS-CoV-2. So it was like it was a great relief that in our bats we do not have this pathogenic virus, but those are not harmful to human being, as we all know that the same family has other pathogenic viruses like MERS coronaviruses, and we have seen the threat in the past, and NIV has played a very major role from NIC to detect them, and surveillance is all keep going for that detection as well. Further, we developed this COVID Kavach ELISA, which was very much needed, and using this kit, we immediately transferred this technology to Zydus. They produce a huge number of kits provided to NIV, and then we could NIE, and then we could complete the first sero survey, which was done in May, June in 2020. And that become very handy. This ELISA we use for further many other studies by little tweaking and modifications of the conjugate. And we also published this study in ICMR. Then the number of positivity was increasing, and we all remember that in October, from August to September, the number of the cases were very high in our country. So we did a pan-India survey of genomes, where we have included 23 BRDLs lab from country, and they collected the samples every fortnight, and they send us 1,603 COVID positive samples to us, and it was NGS was done on these samples, and it was analyzed, and we could see that out of 689 clinical samples, we have found mainly GH and GR, which was a predominant clades in India. And in another part of the country, it was GH clade, and in the southern part, it was GR clade. We could see the presence of E484Q and N440Q mutation from Maharashtra. and also from southern India state. But the most striking part of this study was that till August, there was no presence of VOC or VOI in our country. And there was no presence of even alpha or delta or kappa or any other variant. So whatever has been evolved is after the August only. And this study, the phylogenetic tree was generated, and then a distribution of state-wise presented, and it is already published in Viruses, which you can see in detail. Then in December, the ISACOG was set up where 10 major institutions were engaged to do the genomic surveillance, and NIV is also part of this genomic surveillance. Further, we kept working on therapeutics and prophylactics for COVID-19, and that includes the plasma therapy with headquarters and many other centers from country. This study was done, and this study was very important because based on the data of this study, now this plasma therapy has been removed from treatment of the COVID guideline, and actually proven that it is not helpful in the COVID treatment. We also screen, we establish an antiviral screening in NIV with the help of our seniors, and finally we could screen almost 100 compounds, and out of that some of them having a good therapeutic index, and further studies are being done on those compounds. We further studies how we can use the equine antisera, and we are working with the 3 commercial pharma, and let's hope it can useful for treatment. Then we also working on monoclonal antibody with the Zydus Cadila, and which is underway. We work on the preclinical studies of DNA vaccine Zydus Cadila, which is now completing phase 3, and even they have done trial in pediatric, and the data will be released soon. And the most important, we spend maximum time working on the indigenous inactivated whole virion vaccine with the Bharat Biotech. The journey of the development of this COVID-19 vaccine was not easy. When I say why it was not easy, I just explained few of the points. So in April, when we got the virus in March, and we took almost 1 month to characterize this virus by doing different studies. And once we were said that we have a good virus stock, which is stable and which can use for a vaccine, then ICMR, NIV, and Bharat Biotech signed MOU in the guidance of DG ICMR, and we started doing this study. Prior we talk about this vaccine, please look at their different ways of making vaccine. And there are 6 main ways, and out of that, in our country, we have 2 vaccines which is being used to immunize a large population. One is indigenous co-vaccine, and second is the serum produced vaccine, adenovirus vector vaccine, which is also called as Covishield and Chadox vaccine. If we look at in a normal time, the vaccine preparation take 15 years, because first you design your product, and then you go for preclinical study, and this process at least take 2 to 4 years. Then clinical trial take 5 to 7 years. And all this process together take 15 years or more than that, even sometime. And then finally, if you are lucky and the vaccine is good, then only it can reach to the public for immunization. But in the pandemic type, there was we cannot wait for 15 years. And unfortunately, all the known antiviral, nothing shown a very good good data that we can say that yes, this antiviral is working like a wonder drug for SARS-CoV. So it was challenged, and at a point, everybody's realized that vaccine is the only solution. Our monoclonal therapeutics or something is we have to come out, and that can help in is getting out of this problem. So we started working on this vaccine strain, and there was few of characterization done that include the titer, pathogenicity, and stability study was done in animal and the cell culture. Then stability was checked. EM was done on different cell culture passages. Antigen was used for different ELISAs, for also doing Western blot and SDS phase to see which kind of profile it was generating pathogenicity. And then genetic stability was studied, and it showed that virus was quite stable and mutations were very low with this one particular strain which we choose as a vaccine strain we called as SARS 770 strain. And we transferred this virus to Bharat Biotech, and they formulated with 2 different adjuvants, and they made 3 products for initial vaccine. And as we know that initially we have to study, once the lot is ready for production, in the production, we have to do the preclinical study. And the first is look at the toxicity, safety, then immunogenicity and teratogenicity. So these are the certain things to be start. So initially it was initially the vaccine which you can see here, it was studied even after inactivation. The virus was studied many time by Western blot, PACE, and by EM, and also NGS screening was done many times. Then growth kinetics was done after the inactivation, and you can see that in Western blot we could see presence of spike protein and nucleocapsid protein in these products. But then these 3 products which was initially made, it was studies in 3 animal model: Balsi mice, rabbits, and rats. And excellent safety profile was found at 3 and 6 microgram doses by mutagenicity assay in vitro, and maximum tolerated dose was also seen in repeated dose toxicity study. Vaccine formulation generated significantly high antigen binding and neutralizing antibody titers at different concentration. The vaccine formulations containing a TLR7/8 agonist adjuvant induced Th1 biased antibody response with elevated Ig2A versus Ig1 ratio and an increased level of SARS-CoV-2 specific interferon gamma and CD4 T lymphocyte response. And this study is being published in iScience. Then further, if you look, this is just a cartoon presentation of how we did in these animal studies. And excellent safety profile was found in all 3 species, and high neutralizing antibody titers was seen with 3 microgram and 6 microgram concentration in all the species. Further, the Syrian hamster model, which we already developed in the meantime to use for pathogenicity study, we realized that it can be used for even doing the challenge study for vaccine product. So we designed a study where we give 3 doses of this vaccine on day of 0, 14, 35, and then it was infected with the virus challenge. And there was 4 group, and 4th group was given with the PBS, and it was given a virus challenge and acted as a control. And then hamster was sacrificed at 3, 7, 15 days. And further it was studies, and we realized that those placebo group which did not receive the vaccine was losing their temperature up once they infected with the virus. But those who were vaccinated, they maintained their weight very stable. Further, we studied IgG titers, Ig1, Ig2 ratio, and also the neutralizing antibody. We saw that in vaccinated groups, an increasing trend of IgG titer was seen from 3 weeks post-immunization. And it was observed after the virus challenge. We could see increase in their titer on 7th and 15 DPI, and in the 6 microgram, 3 microgram with LGL2, we could see the highest response, which you can see here. And they did not produce any Ig1 antibody, but produced IgG2 antibody in all the hamster immunized groups. Further, we also looked at the sgRNA and gRNA in throat swab and nasal wash, and we found that genomic viral copy number in throat swab at placebo group was significantly high to others group on 3rd, 5th, and 7th day post-infection, which you can see here. The blue is represented with the placebo, where you can see highest number of virus. But in the vaccinated group, the virus clearance was fast, and later on there was no virus presence. Similarly, in the nasal also, the placebo has highest copy number, but in immunized group it was clear very fast. Further, we tested the tracheal gRNA, nasal terminates, and lungs gRNA And similarly, you can see the placebo has the highest copy number, and the virus clearance was delayed in the placebo group, but in immunized group, it was cleared very fast, or the viral copy number was very low. In extra pulmonary tissues, when we looked at spleen, kidney, small intestine, blood, we found that only virus was present in in placebo group. Immunized group has no virus present there. When we compare the gross pathology finding in placebo and immunized these three groups, we found that placebo group was severely infected with the virus, and it was in compared to the vaccinated group, which was showing a very healthy phenomena of the lungs. Similarly, when we did the histopathology, we found the normal histopathological appearance in vaccinated group, but the placebo group, which you can see here, has congestion, hemorrhages, and mononuclear cell filtration in the interstitium, and pneumocyte hyperplasia on 3rd and 7th PPI in control group. So this was, you can see the difference is so clear between the vaccinated group and with the placebo group. Similar, when we did the immunohistochemistry, the viral antigen was detected in alveolar type 2 pneumocytes and macrophages on 3, 5, and 15 day post-infection in lungs of placebo, but viral detection detected only on 3 DPI in a vaccinated group, and later on there was no antigen present. So based on this study, we could conclude that neutralizing antibody and IgG response were observed from 3rd week post-immunization. IgG titer continued to rise in an increasing pattern. 2 of the vaccine formula, which has imidazole, quinine, adjuvants, showed the best results, and post-challenge markedly high neutralizing titer was observed. They had less body weight decrease, and on 3rd DPI, most of the organ shown the virus clearance in vaccinated group. And based on this study, we could realize that the vaccine was working very well after immunization and virus challenge. And this study is also being published in iScience. The next step was to do in the non-human primates. As I mentioned in the beginning, that in our country, we do not have a facility where you can get pathogen-free primates, non-human primates. So we had no option but go to CPSC and PCCF for clearance, and so that we can get the wild animals from forest. And it was a lockdown time, and rhesus macaques were not available easily in Maharashtra. So 2 of our scientists, they visited Nagpur, and with a very great difficulty, with the help of catcher, they could get these monkeys. The next challenge was how to screen and prove that these monkeys, which has gone from the wild, they are pathogen free and they are fit for the study. So we have to do a huge screening that as per the standard protocol of CPSC and international guideline. That included not only the tuberculin testing, but also we screen their body fluids for RNA and DNA pathogen. And then further NGS become very handy tool, because we screen their RNA and their DNA, and we made their profile, we did as analysis, and we could see those animals which don't have any particular pathogens are mentioned for using this study, and then we could sort out those animals. And not only that, we also did their profiling for biochemistry, hematology, and those data were all compiled together. And finally, we decided the group of the monkeys for a study. This study was challenging in many aspects, because in the country, nobody has done in the past also this kind of study in containment facility, because and you have to handle 20 monkeys in a containment facility using the Delta suit, that the environment become very cumbersome. And the most delicate part was you need to do X-ray of these animals, you have to do bronchoscopy of these animals, because for COVID, this is respiratory disease, and you have to observe those things clinically. So these were the challenges during these experiments. So we took help of Armed Force Medical College and a few of the doctors, and the headquarters got agree, and it was approved, and they become a part of our team, and they have been trained quickly, and they work with us, and we could finish the study timely to match the time which was needed in the country. So if you look at this study design, we gave them 2 doses of the vaccine on 0 and 14 days, and then on 35 days, we challenged with the virus, which you can see here. The samples were drawn time to time to check the antibody and neutralizing antibody. And again, it was having 4 groups as per 3 vaccine formulation, 3 micrograms, 6 microgram with the Algel-2, and 3 microgram with Algel-1. And after that, they were sacrificed at the samples were drawn at 1, 3rd, 5th, and 7th, and on 7th day they were sacrificed, and tissues were collected from different organs for the study. This is a picture which depicts the IgG titer and also the neutralizing titer, and where you can see that in the beginning, the colors are same as I presented for the hamster study. The blue is the placebo group which didn't have any antibody or positivity in the beginning, but the vaccinated group could start showing antibody, and it was rising till prior to challenge. Once they were challenged with the virus, which you can see here, this particular group, which was with the Algel-2, it shows a very high antibody titer of the virus infection. Similarly, we also tested these antibody for RBD proteins and also for N protein, and similar, it supported the similar kind of data as whole antigen inactivated virus. The neutralizing antibody was also studied, and we could see that after the 2nd dose, the titer in vaccinated group, it increased, and after the virus challenge, further it increased and it remained constant. But in the placebo group, there was no antibody, which you can see after post-challenge of the virus as well, which is seen here. And then the protective response was observed with increasing SARS specific IgG and neutralizing antibody titers from 3rd week post-immunization. Further, we also tested sgRNA, which is a symbol of replication of the virus, and we could see that subgenomic RNA was detected in ball fluid of 4 out of 5 animals of placebo, and whereas it was negative for all the vaccinated animals at 7th DPI, which you can see here very clearly. In all the lung lobes, it was found positive, but in the vaccinated group, it was negative, and that shows a very good protection with the virus in this particular vaccine. Further, we studied, and you can see this is a control group monkey's lung, and this is vaccinated, and the picture itself show the gross pathology was so severe with the placebo group. When we looked at the respiratory tract, lung tissues, and extrapulmonary tissue, only placebo shown the presence of the virus, but not in the vaccinated group. So I just want to tell you one thing. There was many teamwork during this pandemic when we were doing these studies, and there was one lab team which used to work. So as generally, if you're doing 5 monkeys or 4 monkey necropsy, it takes long hours, and we used to finish at 1 o'clock in the night. And the team, the laboratory team, they start working, and they will work till 5 o'clock morning. But all the specimen used to test it overnight, and next morning we used to have the results to compare what is happened with which group. So there was a break between studies of the 3. So between one group to another, there was a break of 3 days. But we work very constantly, and every team worked without alteration of timing. And more important, I would like to mention here, when we did this study, there was a countrywide lockdown. So many of the people, they stayed in an IV campus, and they worked day and night on these projects. When we did the histopathology and immunohistochemistry, we found that there was no evidence of pneumonia was observed by histopathological examination in vaccinated groups, unlike the placebo group, which exhibited interstitial pneumonia and localization of viral and antigen in the alveoli, epithelia, and macrophages by immunohistochemistry, which you can see here clearly shown by these arrows. This study is also published in Nature Communication, and we depicted in this figure where you can see very clearly that a placebo has a huge number of virus in lungs, but the vaccinated group was clear, and then they have very good antibody protection in the animals. If you look at the timeline of the virus vaccine, you remember I mentioned in the beginning that journey of vaccine is 15 years. But in this travel which we started, that we have our first virus in March, and we hand over this virus to PBIL, and they formulated as a vaccine after inactivation and processing. And from May, June, we did the characterization at an IV and VVIL. And then we started the preclinical studies, and from July to August, we finished preclinical studies, simultaneous phase 1 and 2 clinical trial started, and which has the data coming up. And then further phase 3 clinical trial started. And we all remembered on 2nd January, it was approved by DCGI for emergency use. And then on 16 January, the vaccination campaign has been started. And now we have data of phase 3 as well, with all the efficacy and everything. But I would like to tell you that we publish all the data of this vaccine, including variants and including all phase trials, preclinical. So every data is available in the public domain to go through. In a phase 1 trial, we had 375 healthy participants, and 100 each randomly assigned to 3 vaccinated groups. 75 were assigned to the control group, and the most common solicited adverse events were mild, and it showed 82.3 to 91.9% seroconversion. In phase 2, we had 380 healthy participants. GMT titers ranged from 100 to 197, and seroconversion was seen at day 56. 3 month post second dose, GMT ranged from 39.9 to 69.5. And finally, based on the hamster and monkey and phase 1 data and phase 2 data, it was decided to go ahead with the 6 microgram and L-gel IMDG formulation to use in the phase 3 studies. In phase 3 study, 25,798 participants were included, and that showed that 78% efficacy against mild, moderate, and severe COVID-19. 93% efficacy against severe COVID-19, reducing hospitalization. And most important, which is this study has present, nobody had shown, that it also shown that 63% efficacy against asymptomatic COVID-19 transmission. When the phase 3 studies was almost going on, then second wave was going on, so we could sequence all the breakthrough cases of these studies, and it was the efficacy was decided based on those sequencing data, and which variant is affecting maximum, and data is also available on the preprint, which is released online. So in January, we had 2 vaccines which was used for mass immunization in our country. The Bharat Biotech Covaxin an ICMR vaccine, and the second was the Covishield, which is produced by Serum Institute. But so as soon as this vaccine immunization started, we felt really relieved, and we felt now our job is kind of relieved and we don't have to do much. But actually, it was just kind of a beginning of a new fighting against the variant. And in the December itself, it started when the first variant, which was reported from United Kingdom, you all know that a huge number of the cases was surged in United Kingdom. India has ministry put our guideline that we should screen very quickly all the people who are coming from UK, and those cases were screened and it was reported. So we could quickly isolate the first alpha virus, which is also called as B117 from UK returnees. And these isolates, and we, as soon as we got the first variant of concern isolated, we realized that we have to think little bigger, because this it seems that a virus is going to mutate and we need to have it a fixed program. So we took help of two of the centers. One is in Delhi, Dr. Kalpana Razdan. She helped us a lot for referring those positive foreign traveler samples coming from different countries. And the second was from Dr. Jayanti Sastry from Mumbai. She referred the samples coming, and also a few more laboratories of Mumbai. They referred the samples to us traveling from different countries who were positive for COVID-19. Those samples were directly put for a virus isolation, and we could get every VOC, VOI, which is present in different countries. And those isolations were made continuously. They were characterized for the titered, and the virus stock was made, and then they further used for vaccine and other studies. So this is a picture which show that we got the virus isolated alpha, beta, zeta, and kappa, delta, and delta plus. So these are all isolated and used further for these different studies. This is a representation of a huge number of virus isolate which we have in an IV, and that represent more than 200 SARS virus strains, including VOC, VOI, and even routine variant, which doesn't have any pathogenicity or big growth. But we capture all of them, we characterize, and we try to publish them, and we use for different characterization, vaccine efficacy as well. So the first one, as mentioned, that we isolated the variant from United Kingdom, and we could use this variant for doing studies for Covaxin immunized serum, and we could show that there was no decrease in titer of the first the virus, which is, I mentioned, the 770. It is our prototype for different studies, and also the vaccine strain. The vaccine strain, the UK strain, they have the similar kind of neutralization, and actually UK variant did not affect the efficacy of Covaxin. Then further, we isolated P2 variant, that is also called B11282 from Brazil, and now it is bifurcated as a P1, P2, P3, and P4. Recently, there is a P4 has been merged and known now. We also use this BUI to test the Covaxin sera, and we found that there was a twofold reduction, but still the titer was sufficiently high to protect for infection. Further, we after Feb, suddenly we started seeing the case surge in Maharashtra, and initially we did virus isolation, and in the meantime we finished the characterization of virus, and it is initially called as double mutant, but now it has been labeled as a Kappa variant. So we came to know that it is a Kappa variant, but virus was mutated so fast that it was further mutated from B1617 to B161.1, 0.2, and 0.3, and it has a different kind of mutation. And the main mutation which was marked was L452R, E484Q, and P618R in the second wave in the Maharashtra. And slowly the 0.1 and 0.2, 0.3 reduce in the number, and the 0.2, which is called as a Delta variant, has increased in number, and not only in the Maharashtra, very drastically it is spread in different states of the country, and it become the most dominating strain in our country. But if you look at the literature and the data in GSAID at the moment, you will see even WHO has declared today that 75% of GSAID present only the Delta strain worldwide now. So it was a kind of a tsunami of Delta variant in our country, and slowly it is spread to different countries, and now a large proportion is affected by this. We used the first, as soon as we isolated the Kappa variant, we also isolated the Beta variant, which was considered to be very, very dangerous for the vaccine and monoclonal antibody, because Covishield and many other vaccines had shown a very minimum efficacy against this Beta variant. Similarly, when the Delta variant transmitted and also shown a very severe disease in people, it was become a very worrisome situation to know what is happening. So we isolated this B1351, which is called Beta variant, and also the Delta variant, and we studied for for Covaxin recipient sera. And these are the certain mutation which is present in beta variant is called N501Y, and these two mutations are also very important. And the studies has been done for different vaccine, and the vaccine sera has shown a reduction in their neutralizing capacity. We use the Covaxin recipient sera, and we did a study with the beta and delta, and we found that there was threefold reduction with both the variants, and but still the titer was so high that it still can protect the individual for the infection. So once a person is immunized, definitely the vaccine will protect against these two variants. So that was a good positive find. Then further, we also studied with the Kappa variant, and it was isolated, which is initially called as a BOC, but it turned to be now BUI, because there was a confusion in beginning B1617, and then there was twofold reduction was observed with the Covaxin recipient sera, but it still is very good for protection against the variants. So if I summarize all the data for different variants for Covaxin, so against the alpha variant, it did not reduce in neutralization, but for the beta, it has a threefold reduction. Similarly, for delta, the sera showed threefold reduction, but it still is good enough to protect the individual. Similarly, we also studied for Zeta and Kappa, and it showed the twofold reduction. And all these data is in public domain and can be looked at. Then because we isolated Delta and Kappa variant, and these was not studies again the Covishield vaccine. So we also did a study on Covishield immunized recipient sera, and which you can see here that we did a neutralization with the B1 is the 770 strain, and this B1617 is the strain, and then we compared with these two, and we found that there was a reduction, but after the reduction also it has a good antibody titer which can protect individual if they have 2 doses of the vaccine. Similarly, the next study we did with the whole combination, where we took the samples from 1 dose vaccinated people, 2 doses, they recovered, have 1 dose recovered COVID cases with 2 doses, and the breakthrough cases. As we all know that breakthrough means that first dose and after the second dose, and after the second dose, if they get infected after 15 days of second dose, is called a breakthrough. And you can see the only point which I would like to mention, almost a huge number of the breakthrough were infected with Delta or Kappa variant. And when we compared them, we saw that breakthrough has the highest neutralizing titer, and the recovered cases plus 2 doses as a very high titer, but these recovered cases were infected with the G-clade virus or B1 virus, which B1 variant. And but you have to remember, even 2 dose vaccinated individual has good enough antibody to fight against different variants. But those people who are recovered or have the breakthrough, they got the highest neutralization efficacy against different variants. Similar kind when we did ELISA and we looked at the nucleocapsid protein and RBD, the similar kind of finding was observed there as well. Now we have the vaccine in January, and we all know that we are almost completed 40 crores of the immunization in our country. But during the second wave, there was another problem which has started. Those people who had a vaccine, they are getting positive, because after the vaccine, we all know what happened in our country. I don't have to explain. There was mass gathering, and there was many occasions where people were not taking care of the social distancing and mask. And we all know that this is a respiratory disease. Even though if you are immunization, if you have a good antibody, you can still get infected. But so to understand what must have gone, who is responsible for these breakthrough, we did a study, and further the VRDL network, which is a VRDL network, We have included 23 centers of the VRDL from 17 state and union territories, which is mentioned here. And we collected the samples, and final 677 COVID positive were included in these study, and 592 had 2 doses and 85 had 1 dose. Covishield and Covaxin mainly were selected. Their data, the clinical data was taken from these individuals using the ICMR portal. And this study is already in Metrics available, you can look at. And then the findings were very amazing. I would like to mention here one thing, that prior to this study, almost all the study we did it mini-seq, which is a very small machine, and we have to do like 20-25 sample in one go. But when we did this study, we use COVID-seq, which is a very good platform and has a very fast algorithm to work in the laboratory. And we used the ICER's NextSeq machine, where we can load 384 samples in one go, and it's really fast in our study. Earlier study took 2-3 months to sequence, but this was a very fast, and we could generate the data in a very short time. And the findings of the study was very interesting, that 86% of the breakthrough infections were caused by Delta variant. And out of these, only 9.8% of breakthrough required hospitalization, and only 0.4% of cases has a fatality. Then there was another observation that Alpha virus was predominant in the northern region, and Delta and Kappa was engaged in southern and western and eastern and northwestern regions. So around 71% of these infections were asymptomatic, and 29% was symptomatic. Furthermore, the interesting thing which we observed, that Delta variant has further mutated, and now it has 4 sublineages with different mutations, and it is presented here in this phylogenetic tree. And this is again on the metric, so you can see the details. And the 86% of the breakthrough, as I mentioned, is caused by Delta. And this is the number which we bifurcation we could see. But then there was you remember all that, there was a Delta plus after this Delta, and everybody started talking, but actually the right terminology is Delta A1, AY1.1 and Delta AY.2, which was also detected in these breakthrough cases. Further, we also looked at the different mutations, and we found these lineages have specific mutations in ORF1b and also in the spike region. So with this, I just wind up all the presentation. There are a lot much to talk, which I have not covered. For example, I did not talk anything about the pathogenicity study using these variants in our country and how we did it. That's again a whole chapter of discussion needed. But at the end of this, I would like to say that we have to have a very active surveillance of vector reservoirs and human population in affected and adjoining area all through the year. We should have a very good public-private partnership for development of vaccines, drugs, monoclonal antibody, and so on. We have to have continuous capacity building. We should have outbreak investigation that should be quick, and that should be also covering the zoonotic infections. And we have to have all the time preparedness to detect, manage, respond to emerging outbreaks of infectious disease. And we have to do searching and preparedness for the next viral threat. Though we all pray that such kind of pandemic never happen, but we all know that it is not the reality. We have to be practical. We have to be ready for coming a future. And then we have to develop a very strong network of various stakeholders in this country, and which can work together in such crises, and we can have early treatment, early diagnosis, and so on. This is a web page of ICMR. If you are interested to look at our variant studies paper, you can go to ICMR web page. You can click the papers on VOC and view, and you can see all the publication on the variants, which we keep updating time to time. We have published around 60 papers on COVID research on different aspects. So whatever I mentioned or I don't mention, we have published everything, and it is available in the public domain. whatever I talk today, it's not just me, though I leaded the team, but there are so many people who put their hard work, and without a great team, you cannot be successful, you cannot get the findings. And these are the few names which I would like to mention here. Of course, Dr. Priya Abraham, our director, she was quite an aspiring leader with us. The Dr. Sri Lakshmi Mohandas, she is the one who was behind all the hamster study, and Dr. Anita behind all the laboratory data. Dr. Reema Shah, she is working for all the clinical specimen for variant studies. And we have Dr. Dilip Patil, Dr. Basaraj, Dr. Gokhale, who work on the animal studies for non-human primates. Dr. Himanshu worked with us for immunological study. And my collaborator, Dr. Gajan Sapkal, he worked all through these years from last year to now in different, he was doing all the neutralization studies with us continuously in our BSL-4 facility. We have BSL-3 also. All the neutralization was done in BSL-3. Dr. Guraz was working continuously with us on the neutralization. Dr. Deepak was also part of the team. Then we have a huge number of female technical staff, and they worked during the lockdown, and they left their small children at home, and they worked 18 to 20 hours in a day. When it was needed, they stayed in here in the campus, and that's how we could achieve so much in this pandemic. I thank the external expert from Command Hospital, which include Colonel Sanjay, Major Gaurav, and also Havaldar here. And even we have one pulmonary expert from headquarters, Chitiz, who worked with us during this pandemic. We had a great leadership from headquarters, and I cannot be thanked enough Professor Bilam Bhargav sir, Dr. Samiran Panda sir, Dr. Raman Ganga Ketkar sir. I missed the name, sorry about it. Dr. Niveta Gupta and Dr. Priya Abraham. Bharat Biotech was a great collaborators, and they have been scientifically engaged all through the project and study, and we really enjoyed working with them because their scientific team is amazing, and I thank all of them. And this is a picture during the pandemic where we took a group photo, and this is a memory of life that we should not have such kind of pandemic in future, but we have to work more, we have to save, we have to follow the social distancing, and we have to be safe for the future studies, and raise the flag of India for the future as well. Thank you so much. I thank once again Premas Biotech for giving opportunity to share the studies with all the viewers here. I thank all the participants who are here and having a patient listening with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Pragya, and I congratulate you for your fascinating work. And I think, all of us know that, bringing a vaccine out is typically it takes a decade or so. But then I think it takes a lot. And like you said, people have worked for days on end, slogging in the night to make sure that the entire vaccine program was kind of shortened, and, it was brought to the people within a record time. And, congratulations on all the work done. We have some questions in the chat box, but before that, I'd like to ask you a question about, your entire sequencing work. You were saying that, earlier when you did the sequencing, it used to take you a long time, and then you shifted to COVID-seq and things became much simpler after that. Are there any, in your entire sequencing experience, in the COVID virus, are there any difficult to sequence regions? Like typically spike region is, what is touted as most important. But do you see a lot of gaps and a lot of, dropouts in any of the regions? And how has your new method changed, at least the data perspective for you?
Yes, thank you. It's a very good question. So initially when we did use the True-6 sequencing, and we kept a very high coverage standard, like we did not accept any sequence less than 99%. In the beginning, we should have, we actually only in the first study, which we did for the countrywide surveillance, we only took 99.97% genome coverage, and we could so we have to actually discard 50% sequences because we kept a very high standard. But later on we realized in the GSET people were using even 98%, 96%, 93%, but still we are not very good because it's a huge genome. And if you take, even if you reduce 2% gaps, it actually goes in KBs. So, and when you do analysis, the tree looks very horrible. So when we did the TrueSeq was working well, but the problem was that the success rate was very less. So then we design our own primer, and we try to do multiplexing. But we saw when these mutations started with the BOC, initially it worked very well, but when the BOC started coming, then we started having some trouble. The COVID-6, which we are currently using, it is wonderful, but still we are facing trouble in many samples where the spike gene mutations are there. It actually miss a few of the stretches. So though you have a millions of the read, but some of the stretches keep missing. So, and I think it is happening because though COVID-6 have very good, great coverage, but virus is constantly mutating. And because of that, I think this stretch is having trouble. So I think as virus is mutating, maybe this reagents has to be keep modifying and changing, and that's how we deal with them.
Sure. And so I'll just take a few questions here. Just 1 second. Anil Kumso, he's posed a question saying that will the vaccine seed virus undergo mutations because of repeated cultures? Is that something that you expect, and is there a workaround?
So once the seed is made, and then they made this master seed, then they don't change it and they don't do multipassage. It's just a same inoculum from the master seed, it is taken up and it is grown. So there is no variation, but still it is being monitored. And the virus, which is whatever study I talked, it was all studies is being done on 770, which is our prototype strain, and we are not seeing much difference. But we are also doing a study where we have passed this virus up to 25 passages, and we are going to look at what kind of mutations happen. But in the beginning, when we did 5 passages, there was not actually much concern. Even we did plaque purification and try to look at the mutation, but it is not actually. But if I look at the other viruses, the BOCs which has come, they are crazily mutating. As I mentioned, the data, it has now 4 lineages. Initially, it was B161, it has 3 lineages. So they are quite fast mutating. But the last year's virus is having less mutation.
So between the lineages, do you see differences in transmission or infectivity?
Yes, so we did that. I mentioned that I did not study, I did not discuss our animal studies on these variants. So when we use the alpha variant or delta variant, we have done these studies also in the database. You can just type my name and then you are my any teammate's name, and you can see those hamster studies data. And for example, for the alpha variant, we studied by different routes and by different modes, and we could see that virus transmission is very high. Also, we did a transcriptome study, and we see that the virus CP formation was delayed in alpha virus. In alpha virus, yes, and also in I think in the delta also the virus transmission is very high, but same time it is having very high pathogenicity. But with the alpha, the pathogenicity is low. So these studies being done, you can please look at it.
An interesting question from Dr. Dinesh Kumar Sahu. He's saying that for VOC, genotyping the VOCs for smaller government laboratories where NGS facilities are not there, what are the things that they can do?
So actually we have discussed recently. Dr. Diveta Gupta has called a meeting of the experts, and NIV's work, Dr. Barsha and team, they have come up with the multiplex PCR. And the initial data looks very good, where you can do this multiplex PCR and you can differentiate different variants. In fact, if you remember this, especially the UK variant initially when introduced in the country, they missed the spike gene PCR, and that's how they could detect. So there are certain PCR which can help in those kind of things. But as this virus is quite conserved, we all know that, and we are working on a very limited number of mutation and differentiating them. So a PCR can help, but I think finally everybody has turned down to saying that the NGS should be done to pinpoint which mutation is affecting their efficacy.
Sure. Did you face any challenges in enrolling healthy cases during the phase 1 and phase 2 trials of the vaccine? And if yes, what were those challenges?
So as I'm not part of those enrollment program, we are more of testing and efficacy and other data.
Sure.
But I think in the for the phase 3, when they started, they had a lot of trouble because they have to have the 50 placebo and these numbers 1:1 ratio. But later on, I think they could complete quickly the data. So I think it was okay, not too bad.
Sure. There's a question from Lakshmi Kirola. She says, I wanted to know about the Delta variant, the 3 mutations, the L452R, 8478K, T478K, and P681R are mostly shown to be associated with Delta. What is the actual frequency in your data with these 3 mutations, and what mutation is more prevalent and causal in COVID-19? And, you know, what is the difference between these 3?
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Rashmi. If you can please refer out breakthrough study, I think you'll get all these answers where we have detailed these this particular data variant and their mutations and their sublineage. So I ask you to please go through.
Okay. Ushashri is basically commenting on, you know, whether you've investigated IBOLT and Covaxin and Covishield immunogenicity studies.
Can you please repeat the question?
Have you investigated IBALT, IBALT in Covaxin and Covishield immunogenicity studies? And have you also done single cell transcriptomics to understand the, you know, basically immune phenotyping or immune genotyping?
So single cell study we have planned, and hopefully we will do it in some time.
So Atul Kashyap wants to know what is the coverage and depth of your sequencing data and how many million reads were generated per sample.
So you can look at our first study. Actually, in most of the study, we have put a table, and it's actually tells you all the data about all the reads and everything. So you can just go and Google it, and you get all the details. Because we have there is always a one Excel sheet attached to each study which we have published, and we have represented the read numbers and their coverage depth and everything. I think with this COVID-sec, the coverage and depth is very high. So you can have a look, please.
Okay. And have you had any studies on cell-mediated immunity? There's a question from Dr. Mala.
So cell-mediated studies was done during the phase 1, phase 2 trial. And for our monkey study, we could do phenotyping and cytokine study. We could not do CMI because that time as I mentioned, that it was lockdown and we could not get the reagents. But with the Gyrus cadila non-human primate study, we could do the CMI study. With the Bharat Biotech, we could not do. But we are doing now with the more like we are doing now the effectiveness study and also breakthrough study where we are doing this CMI study. Yes, we are doing.
So we know that there is a huge, you know, polio surveillance network operative in the country through sewage, etc. So is NIV embarking on any such studies From your end, are there any such studies, or is surveillance something which is not in your scope at the moment? So it's
So the Mumbai unit, which is the apex center for polio program, and also a main institute for WHO center, they have very great protocol for sewage sample and all. They are already running a study with WHO, and I think they have last year they published also one of the study on the sewage. Further they are doing they are trying for isolation and NGS and everything. So yes, it is going on.
And also, there's a question on why are private institutions not allowed to perform COVID sequencing? Is there a guideline around it?
So I am not aware of that guideline, but I don't think there is any problem that private lab cannot perform. But in the beginning, INSACOG only chosen 10 labs, and now they are expanding their coverage. I think they can do it, but you have to approach to maybe INSACOG has divided country into the four zones, and they have been assigned the institute. You can approach and check with them.
There's a question which says, Miss Mitali Samatar, she's saying, I'm wondering whether the neutralizing antibodies with the whole virus inactivated vaccine was predominantly against the spike protein or other antigens too.
Sorry, can you please repeat?
So were the neutralizing antibodies against the whole virus inactivated vaccine, was it predominantly against the spike protein, or was it against other major antigens too?
No, as I shown many times that data that it has, because a complete antigen, so you can do multiple antibody testing. But as internationally, people are monitoring spike gene and nucleocapsid. These two genes are actually very important. So most of the people have raised data, and we have also worked in the similar pattern. All for our variant study and also for the preclinical, and also during the phase trials, actually during the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, we did monitor those specific proteins. So we have all the time 3 tests, one with the complete antigen inactivated, where we have whole virus inactivated ELISA COVID coverage. And also we have indigenously developed by Dr. Gajanan's team, the nucleocapsid and also the spike gene. So we have done all the time in all the studies, these 3 ELISA simultaneous.
Okay, we have time for only 1 or 2 questions more. I see a couple of raised hands. So this is Dr. Shivani Dubey. I'm allowing you to talk. Dr. Dubey, you can unmute yourself and ask questions. Dr. Shivani Dubey, I believe you wanted to ask a question. I've unmuted you from my end. You can unmute yourself and ask whatever you wanted to ask. Okay, I think we'll, and there's one more person, Dr. Surendra Kumar. I'll just kind of unmute him. Do you have a question to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then I'll just, thank Dr. Pragya. And thank you for the very informative session. I'm sure a lot of people out here would have learned a lot. And, if there are any more questions, you can just write to us. We will forward it to Dr. Pragya and we'll get the answers for you. And thank you so much for your very insightful sessions. And I'm sure you'll continue to do the great work you are doing. And like, as you said, everyone wants this pandemic to end. Nobody wants a repeat of this pandemic, but I guess the best way out is to stay prepared. And I think science is our best option for that. Thank you, Dr. Pragya.
Thank you so much. I just wish everybody should be safe by following the vaccinations and hand wash and social distancing. And we have to remember the pandemic is still going on. So we have to be cautious and safe. Thank you so much for listening me. And I look forward, if you have any more questions, please refer to the publication which NIV has done during the pandemic. And still, if you have any question, if you want to collaborate, if you want to do some scientific, we are always there to help you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you,
weekend,
Dr.
everyone.
Pradya. Thanks, Devjani, for hosting this session. Thank you all for attending this session. We will soon come up with our next our next webinar. So stay tuned for more information, and thanks. So I will be ending this session now.